Hey everyone, Andrew here, bringing you another video review. Today we're going to be doing Outsiders, Sum of All Evil. Take a look at this comic cover right here. Now, Sum of All Evil is the second volume in the ongoing Outsiders series, at least this ongoing Outsiders series. And in this we get basically two stories that can be summed up very quickly. The first story deals with a leader of the Russian Mafia, and this leader of the Russian Mafia wants to gain power through any means possible, even if that means tampering with the dark arts, summoning some bad evil mojo, you know, that kind of stuff that you just don't want to touch because, well, it's not a smart idea. It always backfires on you. Well, anyways, he does so. He summons up this bad mojo, and the Outsiders need to go and stop him. While doing this story, Arsenal is not in there, but instead is replaced by Huntress. We also see Black Lightning show up, and also Captain Marvel Jr. So we got some guest starring here. They don't last much long. They only stay in for this story arc, but it's nice to see a few new faces in there too. The second story arc deals with the return of the Fearsome Five. Now, if you know anything about the Fearsome Five, they can actually be quite fearsome, and they're reforming their team, even if that means bringing some of their members back from the dead. Will the Outsiders be able to take care of the newly reformed Fearsome Five, or will they fall short and fail? Well, I'm going to allow you to read and figure out. So let's get into the good, the bad, and whether or not you should get it. Well, let's start off with good. Good. This continues the great theme that comes with the Outsiders, at least this volume of the Outsiders, in that they are hunters. They are not firefighters. They do not put out the fires. They stop the fires from happening in general. There's some great action scenes in here. Obviously, the dialogue is pretty good, and it does have that vulgar-like tone to it with the swear and the cussing, but the dialogue is actually pretty good. But the action is very nice in this, too. You also start to really fall in love with these characters. In particular, characters like Grace, Indigo, and Shift, and also Thunder to a point. Thunder takes a little bit of time before she progresses up to being as well-liked as the others. However, this does really progress the characters and how much you like them. The enemies were good choice. They weren't bad enemies, but I would have picked other ones. Like, the Fearsome Five are good, but I always consider them more of a Teen Titans villain. It's like if the Outsiders went up against a Mazo, it just would have felt off. But it works because the Fearsome Five just are so fearsome, so the Outsiders need a badass villain for them to go up against. The demonic bad guy that has all this evil power, which I don't want to reveal where the power source is. I don't want to give too much away. But he's actually a pretty good choice. I like him, and he does come into play in later Outsider stories. So that's the good. Bad. Well, this is probably a little bit weaker when it comes down to writing. The writing is still good. The dialogue is still good, but it's a little bit weaker from the first volume. It relies heavily on its action scenes with the Outsiders and their villains. So this is a little geared more towards action kind of comics, the comics that people like, that have a lot of action in them, than ones that have a lot of story in it. It's basically bad guy, we beat up. Plain and simple. So it does have a little bit less of a story in there. And some of the characters weren't showcased as well as I thought they could have been. Nightwing does get a little bit of character development, but it's almost negative because they kind of make him out to be an asshole. Which is okay because they kind of deal with it in later volumes, but still, the fact of the matter remains is, you know, while you get all this development with some characters get none. You'll find throughout all the series that Jade really gets no development at all. She's kind of just a blank slate that comes in there, does her job, and that's about it. Whether or not you should get it. Well, at this point, you really should know by now whether or not you like the Outsiders or you don't. This volume, I think, is something that's worth picking up because this is really going to be a deciding factor on whether or not you're going to stay with them. If you liked Looking for Trouble, the first volume in this ongoing Outsider series, then you should at least give this a shot to see if you want to continue it. If you didn't like the first volume, I don't know why you're watching this because you probably don't want to pick up any more of the Outsiders. I do implore people to at least pick up the first two volumes, though, because then you will at least get a sense of whether or not you like this team or not. So, if you like the first volume, then I do recommend picking this up, because this is really going to be the cutoff point. This is where you're going to choose to stay with the Outsiders as a comic, or you choose not to. If you do not like this story as much, then I recommend maybe stopping The Outsiders, because the stories stay within the same status quo, for lack of a better term. If you do like the story, though, then maybe you should look on to my next review and see if you want to continue reading The Outsiders. So I do recommend picking this up if you like the first volume, if you like the scenes that came from The Outsiders, and this is where you can really determine on whether or not you should continue with The Outsiders. So with that said, this is Andrew saying, peace out for now.